Momlenials, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am so excited to introduce to you one amazing woman. Her name is Otakara Klettke. She is one of the first women to be on here with us on here, Momlenials. Of a series of women that are going to be joining us doing interviews talking about their passion, their projects, and mamahood. I am so excited. She is here with us to talk about her children's book, which is her newest book that she did. It's called The Case of Missing Max, and it is from the point of view of a dog, which is exciting. I know kids love dogs. My daughter does. This is not her first book. Her first book is Hear Your Body Whisper. So she completely changed genres. So let's talk to her. Otakara, please introduce yourself.
My name is Otakara Klettke. I am a mom like you guys, definitely mom. And while I was at the process when I could not, I know most of you have like a smaller kids, but when my daughter started growing up bigger, I decided to write a book, my first book. And so I was a homeschooling mom, and it was something that absolutely got me, took my heart, and I stick with writing. So right now I pushed out a second book for children that actually was slightly part of my homeschooling process, because I could definitely put my daughter as my beta reader and have that as a part of the homeschooling while I was actually producing a book at the same time. So I live in Oregon. Originally I'm from Czech Republic. That's where the accent's from.
Yeah.
But I'm here now, some a few hours away from you, and I think from most of the people who are Momlenials there. So that's it.
No, we actually have a big audience in the US too. So we have a lot of people from the US, but I'm sure it's different time zones still. But it's so cool to hear that now you've branched out into children's writing. Because I know you were doing your first book, which was about unlocking your self-healing mechanism, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it was about. What made you do that switch? Like, what inspired you? You said it was your daughter because it was kind of like a project, right, that you decided to do?
I always kind of wanted to write children's book, but the children's books are extremely competitive to even try to break it in. So that was one thing. But with the first one, so I think like inside me, I always wanted to be with both. It's not like I wanted to do one subject and be married to that subject. And so when I published Hear Your Body Whisper, the book got really, really successful, and it was amazing, and it was lots of work. It was my first book. And then I went on a bunch of podcasts and radios, and I kept talking about the book and talking about the subject till I was absolutely drained of the subject, kind of. And I wanted to, and I needed to write, and I wanted to write something different, kind of like if you eat too much sweetness, you need a cup of water. So I wanted to do something out of a different area, which, out of marketing sense, it was not probably the best idea, because I already have audience who absolutely loves my first book. But like I said, I wanted to do something else, and it was a fun thing to go after nonfiction that required a lot of research to do fiction and let the imagination play. So it's a different style of writing. It was something else to do, but it still was writing, which was fun. So then we did this book, and this is a start of a new series called The Detective Bella Unleashed, which is basically a book written from the point of view of a dog. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in a dog world, except they are girl dogs. So I wanted to have a female protagonist. I wanted to have a strong girls to show that, as a girl, you can use your brain and do amazing things, just as much and so I have these two characters there, that it's AC, who is a poodle, who moves to the new town, and she's kind of an up-class poodle who gets her pedicure done, and and goes to groomers and everything anyway, and went to fancy doggy school, and she has a title girl, so she's girl AC, and she meets with her neighbor, a Siberian husky called Bella, who has a family with 3 kids, who has a parents and 3 kids and a toddler in a family where it's completely chaotic, lively, dynamic family, where AC comes from single, high performing lady as an owner, and Bella is out of family with a bunch of kids who never went to kind of fancy doggy school. But then then the puppy goes missing, and these 2 girls, they team up, and they go find this puppy. And so it's this, super good-hearted Bella, who is completely street smart, with this upper class doggy who knows things, but it's not really, willing to wander into scary areas, and she has to cross her own fears to go there, and also learn about the life, and understanding that just because she's from some upper class, it doesn't mean she'll know everything, or be just as brave as Bella. It's all written from dog point of view, so I get like, and they comment on human life, which is kind of funny. So a lot of even grown-ups, they say they have a great time reading it to their kids, because I don't know, she talks about a strange human grooming habits, how we use tools to groom ourselves and things like that. So it's fun. It was fun. It was definitely fun of creating, because I have 5 dogs, and the creation was fun because the dogs kind of inspire me when I constantly think like, what a dog thinks about us from their view.
That's really cool. And you have 5 dogs.
I have 5 dogs.
Oh, wow. So I thought you just had the one in the back there that was lying down, but...
No, I have dogs always all around me.
So cute. How do you have time with 5 dogs?
I have 5 dogs. 2 days ago, my daughter got 2 guinea pigs.
Oh, wow.
We also saved a chipmunk. When we found a chipmunk when he was still blind and still like a couple days old, was this big. And so we nursed that one. So he became our pet. So we have a pet chipmunk, 2 guinea pigs, snake, aquarium, and 5 dogs.
Wow, that's a lot. And I'm curious, how many books have you have you written that have never seen the day of light? Like,
never. No. These 2 were the first one that I finished. I had lots of books that I started writing because I actually wanted to become an author. It was the first job I have. If you ask me when I was 5 years old what I wanted to be, I would say I wanted to write children's books and illustrate them. Now, this book, I hired an illustrator. I came to my senses later on that I'm not gonna, play with illustrating my own book. I don't have any kind of education, so I did not illustrate. But I have beautiful illustrations from Minette Wasserman. But it was something that I wanted to do when I was absolutely little. And then you grow up, and it is difficult. It's really difficult to find a self-discipline to sit down and do it. And if you're not gonna do it every single day, sit down and find the motivation. If you're gonna every day wait, I'm gonna wait till the muse is gonna kiss me today and then I'll start writing, then it's difficult to finish. So basically my first book was my own present to my 40th birthday last year. So I published the first book last year, and I missed my birthday by like 2 weeks with the publishing, but I started months and months prior, and that was something I wanted to do for my own self, and I think it was the best present I ever gotten from anyone.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. No, that's really inspiring, because you came back to your dream, even though life gets in the way, and I'm totally there with you. Life gets in the way. We let other things take priority, and then it's nice to know that we can come back at any point and decide. And that's something I really admire, when we can decide that this is what we want and we pursue it. But that's so beautiful. What do you think is the hardest part of writing a book?
Not to give up.
Yeah,
Because it's a long journey, It's doable. It's not like it's not doable. Like every one of you, you can do it. Anyone can do it, honestly. Um, and you don't have to, I mean, I'm a proof you don't have to have a perfect English. You know, I have a program, I don't know if any of you use it, Grammarly, that like gives me the weekly reports on my English. And, you know, I'm proud to say I write a lot more. I'm like at 95th percentile of writing, 98th percentile at my vocabulary, but my grammar, I'm at like 15 percentile. Like I always get that. So my grammar is not, you know, my grammar is not there, which a lot of people tell you cannot write a book if, you know, you had bad marks at school. Absolutely not true, because you hire an editor and they'll fix your grammar for you. So there is a lot, but there is a lot to it. You know, you're not gonna. I know people the fastest, shorter time. I know like 3 months that it takes from beginning to the end. I did my first book 9 months to bring it. My first book was 7 months to bring it from written form to Kindle, and it still was in a paperback. An audiobook took another, each book later on after, when it was already written and pushed out as a, published as a Kindle. It took another couple months for other formats. This time around, I took 9 months and I published all 3 formats in one go. So this children's book's available as a ebook, a paperback, and audiobook, and that took me 9 months. And it's something that like, it needs to be in your heart that you really, really, really want to do, because you need to know that every day, and then this is kind of what I do, is I feel guilty if that day I do nothing for a book. It doesn't matter how much you do. And I find that to be true with anything, any kind of project. If you do one single tiny step, you're a step forward than you were yesterday, and you will get there. Absolutely. There is no question that you won't. You absolutely will. But it's important that every single day when you wake up, you know, you're going to make at least one step. You're going to say, you know what, if there is nothing else, I'll set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. And then 15 minutes I'm going to devote to this project. And that's what gets you there. But what is hard, it's a lot of times the people are like, oh, not today, I'll do it tomorrow. And then one day turns to 2 days, and 2 days turns to 5 days. And once it's 2 weeks, you already forget about it. And, you know, how Elizabeth Gilbert says in her The Big Magic, you know, you have that muse that's there with you, and she's not going to hang out just because you decided to take the few days break. She's going to go and kiss somebody else and work with someone else. You have to show up. Show up is the hardest time, but if you show up for your work, it doesn't matter what it is, you will get there.
That's beautiful. You're speaking to my soul, Otakara. It's like you're giving me like, this is what you should be doing. You know what's funny? Today I was kind of lacking motivation, but hearing you say even take 15 minutes to do something towards your project, and it'll make a difference because you'll get there, is so right, and it's so true. And I think as moms, we think because we don't have time, we can't do anything. But I think if we just even 10 to 15 minutes, you know, to do something like that is really wonderful, because it does create something bigger for us, you know. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. And usually what actually on top happens, that if you cannot really find more than 15 minutes, just sit down and literally, I had that moments when I literally put a timer on my phone. And don't do much. Don't do timer that like you would actually focus out. But if you do the 15 minutes, so often 90% of the time ends up you hit the timer and you continue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you already have that startup. And it's a good thing. The other good trick to do it is at the evening before you go to bed, to write yourself a note. Either if you're writing in your process of writing, which is a short process, out of all creation of the books, actually, you know, most people don't think that, but that's the shortest time it takes to actually write a book. Then it takes a long time to edit the book and go back and smooth the words and fiddle with each sentence. But to write, it doesn't take long. But if you leave at the evening, like mid-sentence, so in the morning when you wake up, and this is how I wrote my first book, I would get up 1 hour earlier than my family. And I would get up early, just put on a bathrobe, you know, so I would be warm, don't worry about anything. The only thing I did was brush my teeth, made myself a cup of tea, and sat at the computer. And so I did it in, you know, I wrote my book And I was so scared I'm not gonna finish that I didn't even tell my family until I actually wrote it. Like nobody knew, like nobody knew. So when I was done and I started editing, then I told, like then it started to be more work on doing things in the daytime. And then a lot of times with my kid, like I homeschool, I would do like fine 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there. But it's a good thing to have something at the evening to, you know, and later on, whatever, like write your notes. And I would say like, okay, edit whatever, these were just make the research into that. But at the evening, you give yourself a hook. So when you get up in the morning, you know where to start. And I found it really, really important because your brain works the best in the morning. So if you can work in the morning, it's the best time to do it. But also it's still sleepy, so it doesn't know where to start. So you just gotta kind of give yourself, you know, leave yourself something to start with, something in the morning. And then you can do it. But I think you're doing awesome because you have Momlenials, and as long as it's on your head every day, if you do nothing else but make one post, you are doing something, you know. And the other thing, what it gives you, it's you don't feel guilty, because if you go to sleep with guilt that I didn't do nothing for my project, then that guilt will eventually eat you up. So it's important you're not guilty. And if you do choose and you have the day and you go with your family and you go, you know, it's a beautiful summer day, I'll go to the lake, we'll have fun, then give yourself that permission in the morning and say, today it's the day I am taking break from my project. And at the evening, I'm not gonna feel guilty because I know at the evening, I'll write my note where to start in the morning and I'll push hard in the morning. And that's your promise for that day, for taking a day off. So I'm not saying like, don't take a day off completely always, but just be okay. Like, because if you allow guilt, that will eat your project.
No, definitely. You're so right. And finally, I wanted to ask, what does literary success look like for you? Like when do you feel the most successful as a writer? And what does that look like?
Okay, so probably the best thing, the most rewarding thing is to have people who actually enjoy my book. The first book's been out over a year, so I had ton of people contact me and email me. I left in the first book, I have an email for people to contact me about the book. So I had a huge amount of people to contact me. And if you just know you change someone's life, you know, and that book sold thousands and thousands of copies. If you know you change someone's life, it's just such a huge feeling, or not necessarily always even change or affect it. And my first book, it's Hear Your Body Whisper, How to Unlock Your Self-Healing Mechanism, is basically a book that gives a power to you and your body, and like teaches you how to understand your body and understand what your body wants and accept it. And it's like the path of how to truly love your body. And it's not just like love your soul, because I talk about, basically in that book, I talk about the microbiome you have in your body and all the creatures that basically extract vitamins and do that. So, you know, I know how like hard it is especially for us women, to love your own body and accept our own selves, even though we say we do love each other, love ourselves, and we go, but you know, there is that deep down kind of like, still deep down kind of things. You see yourself in the morning in a mirror and you go like, oh, the belly should tuck in a little more or something. And but this book basically teaches you that, you know, you're not your body. 90% of the cells you have on you are, and it's not in a meaning of a spiritual thing necessarily, it's 90% of your cells are actually some kind of microorganisms, you know, usually some bacteria, and our human cells are much bigger, that's why we see them. But what's sitting in this chair, what's sitting in the chair you're sitting, it's only 10% of human cells. 90% of your cells are not human. So, yeah, and then you realize, like the book basically gets you to realize that what are these doing? And they're keeping you alive. And no matter what, they're doing the best. And the book basically shows how they're doing the best and teaches you to communicate with them. And you understanding that if you're hating yourself, it's much easier for a human being to love. For you as a mom, you are gonna much more likely love your daughter no matter what, then you're going to love and accept yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you realize that your body is really only 10% you, but all I'm asking you in that book is to love those creatures, those 90%, and do everything what you can for those 90%, then your body is just gonna stay in shape. You don't have to watch your diet. You don't have to watch, and it will do what it will find its perfect balance, where if you're starting to feel sick, it will create antibodies and it will take care of you. That body, your body is there to fully take care of you if you're willing to give it a chance and voice.
That's beautiful. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I need to know more. So let's leave it at this. I don't want to give up all the surprises and all the things that you have to say, because I think you have a lot to offer to moms and I want them to get to know you more and ask you more questions. So why don't we say goodbye and we say stay tuned, Momlenials, for the Q&A that's coming up in one of our Zoom parties. We're going to book that for next week, most likely. So just stay tuned so that we can have Otakara with us and asking her some amazing questions about, we're going to be talking about homeschooling. We're going to talk about her book on self-love and self-healing, which is amazing, I hear, and her amazing new children's book, which I would love to know more about. And I know I'm going to be reading to my daughter. She's a bit small, but I enjoy reading to her, and she usually falls asleep to me reading, so it's always good. So why don't we do that, okay? So
Absolutely.
nice to have you. I'm happy to have you here with us, and we will see you guys at the Q&A.